My sister helped our parents ruin my face with a legal skin whitening cream. After that, I cut them all out of my life. 3 years later, my sister came back, scared and begging me for help. My family is the most racist group of people I've ever known. In the summer, whenever we went outside, my mom would count how many times me and my older sister stepped out of the shade. When we got home, we'd get one hard slap for each time. For years, our morning routine was our mom rubbing cheap skin whitening cream from the dollar store all over our bodies. The whiter we looked, the nicer she treated us. I just wanted to be a normal kid. But my sister was proud to act white. She would set alarms every 3 hours at night, so she barely slept. That made her look pale from tiredness. Instead of caring about her health, our parents treated her like a princess. They gave her fancy dresses, expensive jewelry, anything she asked for. It was obvious she was the favorite. I thought if I wanted their love too, I had to be like her. But I tried other ways. I got straight A's in school, cleaned the whole house every weekend, even gave them foot massages. They'd smile and say, "Thanks, but we wish you worked this hard on getting pale skin like your sister." For my 17th birthday, they gave me a hair product with actual bleach in it. It came all the way from Africa. I spent the whole day crying into a teddy bear from Barnes and Noble. That's when my sister came into my room and hugged me. I thought she was going to say something comforting, like she would always be there for me, that I was still her sister no matter my skin color, and that it didn't matter. But no. She said, "Helen, I love you, and I want to help you. Look at me." I looked at her. She looked so weak. Her face was thin. She had big dark circles under her eyes, and her scalp had burns from using strong hair straighteners. Then she said, "If I can look this beautiful, so can you." At first, I thought she was joking, but the look in her eyes told me she was serious. She truly believed hurting herself like that made her beautiful. After that, I started wearing foundation that was too light for my skin. I covered up my arms and legs. Not because I hated my brown skin or curly hair, but because I knew it would make my parents happy. And at that time, I thought that mattered. After all, they were the ones who gave me life. 7 years later, I graduated from the University of New York. That Thanksgiving, I felt really good. I had started running and spent a lot of time outside. I had learned to love my natural skin and hair. I felt free, and my boyfriend Adam loved it too. Adam was half Puerto Rican, half Italian. He understood the struggles of internalized racism. But he looked white, so I thought things would go okay with my parents. I was wrong. We showed up at my parents' house holding hands. I even wore foundation that was a bit lighter than my real skin tone, just to make things easier. When the door opened, I saw someone who looked like my sister, but she was even sadder now. Her skin was very pale, and she looked too skinny. It broke my heart, and I think her heart broke too. As soon as she saw us, she cried out, "Dios mío, what are you doing to our bloodline?" My boyfriend gently squeezed my hand, like he was saying, "It's okay, we've got this." Tears were already falling down my face. "My love, what have you done to yourself?" My mom cried as she reached for my hair. She tried to undo my slicked back bun and fix it with her fingers. Then she saw Adam. Her mouth dropped open, so wide I thought it might break. You almost had me thinking this monkey was your real boyfriend," she said. "But I get it, you're young, just fooling around." Then she laughed like it was some kind of joke. My dad grabbed my hand and pulled me into the house. He handed my sister a jar of skin whitening cream to put on my face. But it wasn't the kind they used on me as a kid. This one burned. "Stop. Get away from me," I yelled, crying. In seconds, my skin broke out in blisters. My face started peeling and burning like it had been dipped in hot sauce. I screamed while Adam quickly called the hospital. I thought this would be the moment my parents realized how wrong they were. But instead, my dad tried to fight Adam to take the phone away. He shouted, "Pain is beauty. Arita will be beautiful." By some miracle, the ambulance arrived in time. When the nurses finally saw me, my eyebrows were already burned off. The next morning, I woke up from a skin grafting surgery. Adam was sitting next to me, holding my hand and calling me beautiful. But then I checked my phone. I had dozens of missed calls and messages. The first voicemail was angry. They called me a disgrace to the family. The second one was a threat. By the 10th, my sister was begging me not to press charges. There are parents, she said. They just want what's best for us. Please come home. We can fix this. I couldn't believe my sister was still defending them after everything. Her voice sounded empty, like someone who gave up a long time ago. Adam sat beside me while I listened to the voicemails. With each one, he looked more and more worried. Kayla, he said softly, this isn't normal. What they did to you is abuse. It's always been abuse. He gently held my hand, careful not to bump the floor. I knew he was right, but hearing him say it out loud made something shift inside me. For so many years, I had been trying to earn love that should have been given freely. I let them hurt me, both physically and emotionally, because I thought that's just what families did. I told myself their cruelty was normal. I made excuses for them and blamed myself for not being who they wanted. Later that day, a hospital social worker came to talk to me. She asked about my burns. For the first time in my life, I told someone the full truth about my family. I can't say what happened next in this short video, but the full story is on my channel. While I was still in the hospital, I decided to press charges. The social worker helped me file a police report. I was scared. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely hold the pen to sign the papers. The officer who took my statement was an older man named Officer Scott. He looked at me with sad eyes, like he had seen this before. You're doing the right thing, he said as I told him about the years of abuse. I'm not going to lie, I almost backed out at least 75 times during that talk. There's this strange guilt that comes with reporting your own parents, even when they literally burned your face with illegal skin bleach. Adam stayed by my side the whole time. He held my hand through the questions and even brought me real food, because hospital food was awful. The nurses kept calling him my husband. We didn't correct them. Honestly, it felt nice, like a small glimpse of a future where I had a real family that actually loved me. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages from my parents and sister came nonstop. I eventually just turned it off because reading them made my blood pressure go up, and the doctor said that wasn't good for my recovery. My mom kept switching between threatening me and begging me to come home. My dad sent long texts about family loyalty and how I was betraying my roots. Funny, coming from the same man who tried to bleach that very heritage off my skin. The hardest messages came from my sister, Ruth. If you do this, they're going to take me away, she texted. Please, Helen. I need them. I don't know how to live any other way. That message from my sister hit me hard. I knew exactly how she felt. When your whole life is built around making other people happy, the idea of losing that role is scary. I was released from the hospital after 4 days. My face was still covered in bandages. I looked like a mummy from a cheap horror movie. The doctor said I'd need to come back for more visits over the next few months to make sure the skin grafts healed right. They also gave me a special cream to help my skin. It cost more than my monthly rent. Thank God Adam had insurance that paid for most of it. We went straight to Adam's apartment. I couldn't go back to my own place. I was scared my parents might show up. Adam lived in a small one-bedroom near campus. The furniture didn't match and the kitchen was tiny, but it felt safer than anywhere I had lived before. That first night, I broke down completely. I cried so hard my face was soaked, my nose was running, just full-on ugly crying. Adam held me and let me cry it all out. I kept saying I should have done something sooner. I should have protected Ruth. Maybe I was making a big deal out of it. He just listened and wiped away my tears, being gentle with the bandages. Around 4 a.m., when we were still awake, I told him, you know what the craziest part is? A small part of me still wants them to love me. How messed up is that? The next morning, there was a knock at the door. I hid in the bedroom, scared it might be my parents. But it wasn't. It was Officer Scott, and another officer I hadn't seen before. We talked to your parents, Scott said when I finally came out. They're saying it was just a misunderstanding. They claim you had an allergic reaction to a normal beauty product. I just stared at him. Of course they'd say that. They've been covering up their abuse for years with lies like that. The new officer, Officer Brian, Asked me if I had any proof. Did I have photos of past injuries? Had I ever reported anything before? Did I still have the bottle of the cream they used? I didn't have any of that. Who takes pictures of their own abuse as a kid? Who keeps the stuff that hurt them? I started to panic. I thought they wouldn't believe me, that my parents would get away with it again, just like they always had. Then Adam spoke up. The hospital has a chemical report from what was on her face. That should prove it wasn't a regular beauty product. Officer Brian nodded and wrote that down. We'll get that report. For now, we've filed a temporary restraining order. Your parents aren't allowed to contact you or come near you. After they left, I finally let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. I checked my phone again, 21 missed calls from my mom, 15 from my dad, and 27 from Ruth, plus a bunch of texts. The most recent one from Ruth made my stomach drop. They're saying you're mentally unstable, that you've always made up stories for attention. They have pictures of you smiling at family events to prove it. I showed the message to Adam. They're going to twist everything I said. I told him. They'll make it look like I'm the crazy one. Adam gently said I should try reaching out to anyone who might have seen the abuse over the years. Right away, I thought of Mrs. Bradley, our old neighbor who used to let me hide at her place when things got bad. Then I remembered Mr. Robert, my high school counselor. One time, he noticed the makeup I used to cover bruises, but I lied and said I fell. He didn't push it. I spent the next few days making phone calls while trying to recover. Most people remembered something felt off about my family, but no one had anything solid to help. Mrs. Bradley had moved to California. Mr. Robert said he had been worried back then but didn't write anything down. I was starting to lose hope until I got a text from a number I didn't know. This is Lori from college. Adam gave me your number. I have pictures from freshman year when you had those burns on your neck from home. Let me know if they'll help. I had completely forgotten about those pictures. Lori had taken them at a dorm party when my makeup rubbed off. I was so embarrassed and begged her to delete them, but she never did. I called her right away. She said she'd send the photos over. Meanwhile, Adam was amazing. He changed his work schedule to drive me to doctor appointments, cooked real meals, not just ramen like I used to eat, and never once complained about all my stuff taking up space in his tiny apartment. One night, I even caught him looking up skincare tips for chemical burn healing when he thought I was asleep. About a week after I filed the report, I got a call from a woman named Rachel. She said she was a victim advocate from the district attorney's office. She told me they were thinking about pressing charges against my parents, but needed more details. We have the hospital records and the lab results, she said. The substance on your face had hydroquinone at levels way above the legal limit and mercury compounds that are banned in USA cosmetics. I wasn't surprised. My parents always wanted the strongest, most dangerous stuff. They thought if it hurt, it must be working. What shocked me was when Rachel said, "We also have a statement from your sister." My heart stopped. Ruth gave a statement against our parents? There was a pause. Not exactly, Rachel said. She's supporting their side of the story. She says you've always been jealous of her relationship with your parents and that you're making up the abuse for attention. I hung up the phone and threw it across the room. Adam jumped up from his laptop and ran over to me. I told him what Rachel said, and he just held me while I cried, again. I was so tired of crying. She's scared, Adam said. She still lives with them, right? She's doing what she has to do to survive. I knew he was right, but it still hurts so much. Ruth had been there through all of it. She had been abused too, sometimes worse than me. How could she pretend it never happened? The next day, I tried something different. I called Ruth instead of texting. To my surprise, she picked up. "Helen, you need to drop this," she said right away, her voice low, like she didn't want anyone to hear. "They're really angry. Dad broke the coffee table yesterday. I've never seen him like this." I took a deep breath. "Ruth, they're still hurting you. Look at yourself. When's the last time you had a full meal? Or slept through the night?" "I'm fine," she snapped. "I'm beautiful. Everyone says so." "You're disappearing," I said softly. "Every time I see you, there's less of you." She went quiet for so long I thought she hung up. Then she whispered, "I don't know how to be any other way." Neither did I said. But I'm learning. You can too. She hung up after that. I tried calling her back, but it went straight to voicemail. I left her a message, told her I loved her, and said she always had a place at Adam's apartment if she ever needed it. The case against my parents moved slowly. There were lots of interviews, forms, and more interviews. In the end, the district attorney decided to charge them with assault and child endangerment for what happened recently. But the older abuse was hard to prove. Rachel told me that without photos or witnesses, it would just be my word against theirs. Adam suggested I start writing everything down. Every memory, every incident I could remember, with as much detail as possible. Even if it doesn't help the case, he said, it might help you heal. So I did. I bought a cheap notebook from the campus bookstore and started writing. I wrote about the time my mom slapped me so hard my nose bled because I remembered playing in the sprinklers at a friend's house the same Christmas. My dad gave Ruth a gold necklace and gave me a bottle of skin lightening lotion. I wrote about the mornings when my hair was yanked and pulled straight while I was told how ugly my natural curls were. Writing all of it down felt like cleaning out a deep wound. It hurt, but it was the only way to let the pain out. Some nights, I could only write a few lines before I had to stop. Other nights, I wrote for hours, crying so hard the pages got wet. About 4 weeks after everything happened on Thanksgiving, I got an unexpected call. It was from my Aunt Jacqueline, my mom's sister who lives in Brooklyn. We weren't close. She moved away when I was little, and we only saw her at big family events. Helen, I just heard what happened, she said. Her accent was stronger than I remembered. Your mother called me crying, saying you were making up terrible lies about them. My stomach dropped.
Great.
Now they were turning the rest of the family against me. It's not lies, Tia, I said. They've been hurting me and Ruth for years. There was a pause. Then Aunt Jacqueline said something that hit me hard. I know. 2 small words, but they hit me like a punch to the chest. I suspected, she added. The way your mom was always focused on how you looked. How you girls never played outside like normal kids. I asked her about it once, and she got so angry I never brought it up again. I should have done more. I sat down on Adam's couch. My legs suddenly felt weak. Why are you calling me now? I asked. Because I believe you, she said. And because I found something. When your mom and I were young, our grandmother did the same things to her. I found old diaries your mom wrote about the skin bleaching, about wanting to look more European. It was done to her too. That didn't excuse what my parents had done, but it helped me understand. This cycle of abuse didn't start with me. My mom had lived through it herself and passed it down. Aunt Jacqueline offered to send me the diaries. She also said she'd speak up if I needed someone to testify. And if I ever needed to get farther away from my parents, she said I could come stay with her in Brooklyn. I thanked her, but told her I was okay living with Adam for now. The next day, I had another checkup with the skin doctor. She looked at my face carefully. You're healing well, she said. The redness was going away, and the new skin was growing in. There would be some scars, but not as bad as they first thought. You're lucky, she said while checking the graphs. This could have been much worse. As we were leaving the clinic, I saw someone I recognized in the parking lot. It was Ruth. She was leaning against her car, looking even thinner than the last time I saw her. When she saw us, she stood up straight and walked over slowly. What are you doing here? I asked, surprised. I followed Mom's car when she went grocery shopping, she said. I saw your appointment on the calendar at home, so I knew you'd be here. Adam stood a little behind me, close enough to support me, but far enough to give us space. Ruth glanced at him nervously, then looked back at me. I've been thinking about what you said, she whispered. About disappearing. She looked down. I saw myself in the mirror this morning and didn't recognize who I was. I wanted to hug her, but when I stepped closer, she flinched. Ruth, you can get help, I said. You can get out like I did. She shook her head quickly. I can't. They're watching me all the time now. Dad took my phone. I'm using Mom's while she's shopping. She looked over her shoulder, nervous. I don't have anywhere to go. You can stay with us, Adam said right away. We'll make room. Ruth looked at him like he was speaking a different language. The idea of someone helping her without expecting anything in return clearly confused her. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. You're her sister, he said simply. And for him, that was enough. Ruth started to say something, but her phone buzzed. She checked it and went pale. Mom's done shopping. I have to go. She turned to leave, then suddenly stopped and handed me a small USB drive. I found this in Dad's office. It's their financial records. They've been buying that skin bleach from overseas for years. It's all there, the payments, shipping info, everything. I took the drive, stunned. Ruth, this could be really important for the case. I know, she said. That's why I took it. She started walking away, then called back over her shoulder. I'll try to come to your place tomorrow. Text me the address. As we watched her cross the parking lot, Adam gently squeezed my hand. She's stronger than she thinks, he said. So are we, I replied. That night, we opened the USB drive and looked through the files. Ruth was right. There were years of records showing regular purchases of illegal skin whitening products from companies in Africa and Asia. Some of the ingredients were terrifying. Mercury, high-strength hydroquinone, and something called clitolropionate, which a quick Google search said was a powerful steroid not meant to be used on the face long-term. I called Rachel right away and told her about the new evidence. She sounded excited and said this could really help the case. She set up a time for me to bring the USB to her office. The next morning, I felt nervous about Ruth coming to Adam's place. What if our parents followed her? What if she changed her mind? Adam suggested we clean up a little and get some food she might like. I remembered she used to love quesadillas before she started barely eating. So we went out and got what we needed to make them. The whole day passed, and there was no sign of Ruth. I texted the number she had called me from, but got no reply. By the evening, I was pacing around the apartment, worried something had happened. Maybe she couldn't get away, Adam said. Or maybe she's just scared. We were about to give up and eat dinner without her when there was a soft knock on the door. Adam looked through the peephole and opened it right away. Ruth stood there with a small backpack held tightly to her chest. Her face was even paler than before. They know I took the drive, she said as she walked in. Dad was searching everywhere. When he couldn't find it, he started yelling at Mom, thinking she moved it. I left while they were fighting. I hugged her. This time, she didn't pull away. She felt so light in my arms, like a bird made of glass. You're safe now, I told her, even though I wasn't sure it was completely true. Adam made the quesadillas while I helped Ruth get settled. We didn't have a lot of space, but we cleared out a corner of the living room and set up an air mattress with clean sheets and blankets. Ruth looked at the little setup like it was a room in a fancy hotel. I haven't slept more than 3 hours in years, she said, sitting on the edge of the bed. Mom always said beautiful people don't need much sleep. Well, tonight you can sleep as long as you want, I told her. No alarms. We ate dinner together. I noticed Ruth was taking tiny bites and moving her food around on the plate to make it look like she was eating more than she was. I didn't say anything. I knew recovery would take time for both of us. After dinner, Ruth took a shower. When she came out wearing one of Adam's t-shirts, so big it looked like a dress, I noticed bruises on her arms that I hadn't seen before. Did they hurt you when they found out about the drive? I asked, trying to stay calm. Ruth looked at the bruises, like she was seeing them for the first time. Dad grabbed me, she said. He does that sometimes when he's angry. She said it like it was normal, like it was no big deal. I quietly took pictures of the bruises with my phone. More evidence. I helped Ruth put some of my healing cream on her bruises. After that, we sat together on the air mattress, both quiet, not sure what to say. I'm sorry I told them you were lying, she finally whispered. I was scared. I know, I said. You don't have to apologize. She fell asleep quickly, worn out from everything. I covered her with another blanket and then joined Adam in the bedroom. We spoke softly about what to do next. Now that Ruth was with us, we had to keep her safe too. The next morning, I called Rachel to update her. She suggested that Ruth come in to make her own statement, now that she was away from our parents. Ruth agreed, even though she looked terrified. "What if they don't believe me either?" she asked as we drove to the district attorney's office. "What if they think I'm lying too?" "They won't," I said. "The bruises help, and we have the financial records now." Ruth's interview lasted more than 3 hours. Adam and I waited outside. We didn't talk much. When she finally came out, her eyes were red from crying, but she looked lighter, like she had put down a heavy weight she'd been carrying for years. "They believe me," she said, amazed. "They're going to add charges for what happened to me too." Rachel came out after her and explained that with Ruth's statement and the financial records, they had a stronger case now. They were adding charges: child abuse, child endangerment, and assault for both of us. There would also be charges for importing illegal skin products. "We'll request a court date soon," Rachel said. "Both of you will probably have to testify." The idea of seeing our parents in court made my stomach twist, but I nodded. "We'll be ready." That afternoon, we got a call from Officer Scott. Our parents had been arrested. They were being held in jail, and the judge set bail high, too high for them to pay right away. I thought the news would make me feel better, but instead, I just felt empty. Ruth reacted differently. When I told her, she started crying, not out of sadness, but like she was finally letting go. "It's really over?" she kept asking. "They can't make me go back?" "It's really over," I told her, holding her as she cried. The next few weeks were a blur. We had meetings with lawyers, therapy sessions. Rachel helped set those up, and we worked on adjusting to life together. Adam's apartment was small, and having 3 people made it feel even tighter. But we made it work. Ruth slept on the air mattress. I slept on the couch, and Adam kept his bed. He never complained, not even when Ruth had nightmares that woke everyone up, or when I accidentally used his toothbrush. Ruth's health was still a big concern. Years of little sleep and barely eating had really affected her. We found a doctor who helps people with eating disorders, and she started seeing him twice a week. The first time she ate a full meal without counting calories or checking if her skin looked lighter, she cried. My face kept healing too. The dermatologist said it was looking good, but warned me to be really careful with sun exposure on the new skin. The irony wasn't lost on me. After years of being punished for going into the sun, now I actually had a medical reason to avoid it. Eventually, our parents were released on bail. The court told them not to contact us, but they didn't listen. They broke the rules almost right away, sending emails from new accounts and even having friends call us with messages. Rachel helped us keep track of everything, saying this would only make the case against them stronger. Christmas came and went. It was the first time I had ever spent the holidays away from my parents. There was some sadness, but mostly I felt free. Adam's family invited us to their holiday dinner. His mom made traditional Puerto Rican food that reminded me of my grandmother's cooking before she passed. Ruth ate more that day than I'd seen her eat in years. In January, we got a letter saying the trial would be in March. As the date got closer, my anxiety got worse. I started having panic attacks. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night, gasping for air, thinking I was back in my parents' house with chemicals burning my face. Adam suggested we all try something new to help manage the stress. He signed us up for a painting class at the community center. I was awful at it. My trees looked like green blobs, and my sunsets looked like spilled orange juice. But it was fun, and for those 3 hours each week, I didn't think about the trial or my parents or the scars on my face. Ruth was actually good at painting. Her first picture of a mountain scene looked like something real, with proper sky and perspective. The instructor even praised her work. I watched her face light up with pride, maybe for the first time ever. "I never knew I could make something beautiful," she told me afterward. "I've always thought I just had to be beautiful." In February, something happened that we didn't expect. Aunt Jacqueline called with news she had spoken to other family members about. What happened next shocked me. Several cousins and another aunt came forward with their own stories about how our parents treated us. They said they had noticed things over the years, how our parents were always focused on our looks, how we flinched when someone raised a hand, how we never wore short sleeves, even in the summer. "They're willing to give statements," Aunt Jacqueline said. "They wish they had spoken up sooner, but they want to help now." These new testimonies made our case even stronger. Rachel seemed more confident. though she reminded us that court cases can still be unpredictable. As March got closer, Ruth made amazing progress. She had gained some healthy weight, and her hair didn't look as dry anymore. She still had trouble sleeping, but instead of waking herself up with alarms like before, she stayed up late painting. It wasn't perfect, but it was better. I was healing too, both inside and out. The scars on my face were starting to fade, even though they wouldn't go away completely. I had also started wearing my natural curls again. The curls I used to hate. Adam told me they looked beautiful on me, and slowly, I started to believe him. 1 week before the trial, something unexpected happened. Our dad's sister, Aunt Kayla, showed up at Adam's apartment without warning. Adam was at work, so it was just me and Ruth when she knocked. "Your parents sent me," she said right away. "They want to make a deal." Ruth tried to shut the door, but Aunt Kayla put her foot in the way. "Just hear me out," she said. "They're willing to plead guilty to lesser charges if you both agree not to testify. They'll pay for your medical bills, Barbara. And they promise to leave you both alone forever." I looked at Ruth. Her face had gone pale. "We need to think about this," I told Aunt Kayla. "Come back tomorrow." After she left, Ruth and I called Rachel right away. Rachel told us not to agree to anything without her there and said she'd come over that evening to talk it through. When she arrived, she explained what was going on. "Your parents are probably getting nervous," she said. "The case against them is strong. This is their way of trying to avoid serious punishment." Ruth asked, "What would happen if we agreed? Would they still go to jail?" "Probably not," Rachel said. "With reduced charges, they might just get probation, community service, maybe a fine." I thought about everything they had done, the physical pain, the emotional damage, and all the years they made us hate ourselves. "That doesn't feel like enough," I said quietly. "It's your choice," Rachel told us. "But remember, testifying won't be easy. You'll have to face them in court. Their lawyer will question your story. It can be really hard, traumatic even." Ruth and I stayed up late that night talking about what to do. Part of me wanted to take the deal, just to avoid seeing our parents again and move on with my life. But another part of me needed them to face real consequences. "What do you want to do?" I asked Ruth around midnight. She was quiet for a long time before she finally said, "I want them to know they didn't break us. I want to look them in the eye and tell my story." The next day, when Aunt Kayla came back, we gave her our answer. No deal. We were going to testify. The week before the trial was stressful. I couldn't sleep, and even Adam seemed nervous. Ruth threw herself into painting, making dark, swirling pictures that somehow showed exactly how I felt inside. The night before the trial, Adam made a special dinner for us. He cooked his grandmother's arroz con gandals and brought home a bottle of sparkling cider, so we could celebrate. "No matter what happens tomorrow," he said as he raised his glass, "you two are the bravest people I know. Whatever the outcome, we'll face it together." I looked at Ruth across the table, then at Adam beside me, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. No matter what happened in court, we had already won something big. We had broken the cycle. We had found our voices. We had started to heal. As we clinked our glasses, I knew facing our parents in court would be one of the hardest things I'd ever done, but for the first time, I wouldn't be doing it alone. The next morning, a spring thunderstorm rolled in. Rain hit the windows as we got dressed in the best clothes we had. Adam wore a button-up shirt and a tie. I wore a simple blue dress that showed my natural skin tone. Ruth picked a yellow sundress that made her look both soft and strong. We drove to the courthouse in silence, each of us deep in thought. As we pulled into the parking lot, I saw our parents walking toward the building under a large black umbrella. My mom wore a hat pulled low over her face. My dad walked beside her, stiff and serious, his back straight as a board. "Are you ready?" Adam asked, turning off the engine. I looked at Ruth. She gave a small nod. "As ready as we'll ever be," I said. We walked into the courthouse together, ready to tell our story, ready to face the past so we could finally move forward. I stepped into that courtroom feeling like I felt like I was going to throw up. My hands were shaking so badly, I had to shove them into my pockets to hide it. Adam kept his arm around my shoulders the whole time, and Ruth stayed close on my other side. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, not like the fancy ones you see on TV. Just a plain room with wooden benches, bright lights, and a judge's desk at the front. Our parents were already there, sitting with their lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit. My mom had her hair pulled back tight and wore a lot of makeup, probably to hide how stressed she was. My dad just stared straight ahead. He didn't even look at us. I couldn't tell if he was doing it on purpose or just couldn't bring himself to face us. Rachel met us at our table and quickly went over a few last things. "Just tell the truth," she said. "Don't let their lawyer shake you." The judge came in, and everyone stood. He was an older white man with thick glasses and a serious face. He explained the charges and how the trial would go, but I was so nervous I barely heard him. I just kept looking at my parents, wondering how the people who were supposed to love me could hurt me so much. My mom went first. She sat in the witness chair, acting sweet and innocent. "I only wanted my daughters to have the best chances in life," she said. "In our culture, lighter skin opens doors. I just wanted them to succeed." Their lawyer asked her if she ever meant to hurt us. "Of course not," she said, pretending to be shocked. "Everything I did was out of love. The product that hurt Helen? That was just a new brand we were trying. How could I have known she'd react like that?" Then Rachel stood up, and things got real. She pulled out the financial records Ruth had found, showing years of orders for illegal skin bleaching products. "Mrs. Mendez," Rachel said, "can you explain why you are importing chemicals that are banned in the USA for being dangerous?" My mom's fake smile dropped. She started to stumble over her words. They work better than the American ones. Everyone in Belize uses them. Even though they contain mercury and other harmful chemicals?" Rachel asked. My mom hesitated. Then she said, "Beauty requires sacrifice." The whole courtroom went quiet. She had finally said what she really believed. Next, my dad testified. He tried to act like a tough but loving father, saying he just wanted us to have better lives than he did. But when Rachel showed the photos, my chemical burns, Ruth's bruises, he couldn't explain the photos or the bruises away. But the worst part was when their lawyer tried to make me look like the problem. He brought up times when I had acted out as a teen, staying out late, arguing with my parents. Normal stuff. Then he suggested I made up the abuse because I was a difficult, rebellious daughter. "Isn't it true that you've always been jealous of your sister's natural beauty?" he asked me while I was on the stand. I almost laughed. "No," I said. "I was jealous that she was willing to destroy herself just to get our parents' love, and I wasn't." That shut him up for a moment. Testifying was harder than I expected. I had to talk about everything they had done to us, step by step. The slaps whenever we stepped into the sun. The skin bleaching. The way they always made us feel ugly for having dark skin and curly hair. With each thing I said, I could see the judge's face grow more serious. When I talked about what happened on Thanksgiving, I couldn't stop myself from crying. "They held me down and put chemicals on my face," I said. "It burned off my eyebrows. I got second-degree burns. And while I screamed in pain, they tried to stop my boyfriend from calling for help." Their lawyer said I was exaggerating, but the hospital records and photos proved I was telling the truth. Then it was Ruth's turn to speak. She looked small and fragile on the witness stand, and her voice was very quiet at first. But as she kept talking, she grew more confident. She told the court about the sleep deprivation, the constant hunger, and the pressure to look whiter, straighter, less Hispanic. "I thought it was normal," she said. "I thought all parents did this. But after Barbara left and I saw her healing, I realized what they were doing to us wasn't love, it was control." Then she talked about the day our dad found out she had taken the financial records. "He grabbed me hard enough to leave bruises," she said. When she said that, I saw my mom flinch. Maybe she didn't know. Or maybe she was just worried the judge would think worse of them. The trial lasted 4 full days. By the end, I was completely drained. Adam had taken time off work to be there with us every day. I honestly don't know how I would have gotten through it without him. He brought us snacks, held my hand when things got hard, and kept reminding me why we were doing this. On the final day, we heard the closing arguments. Their lawyer said our parents were well-meaning immigrants who just wanted us to fit into American culture. Maybe their methods weren't perfect, he said, but their hearts were in the right place. Rachel's closing words were much more clear and firm. This case isn't about cultural differences, Rachel said. It's about two parents who abuse their children over and over again, causing physical and emotional harm that will take years to heal. She showed the court the photos of my chemical burns. They brought in illegal, toxic chemicals to use on their daughter's skin and hair. They punished them for how they naturally looked. They made their daughters believe their value depended on how white they could appear. This isn't love. This is abuse, plain and simple. When the judge said he was ready to give his decision, I grabbed Ruth's hand so tightly I probably cut off her circulation. Adam put his arm around both of us. In the case of State versus Mendez, the judge began, I find the defendants guilty on all counts. I burst into tears, not from sadness, but from relief. Ruth was crying too, her whole body shaking. Adam held us both, his own eyes starting to tear up. The judge sentenced our parents to 4 years in prison, with a chance of parole after 20 months. After that, they would be on probation for 6 years. They were also ordered to pay for all our medical costs and attend counseling. A restraining order would stay in place, meaning they couldn't contact us unless we gave permission. As the bailiff led them away, my mom looked back at us. For a moment, I thought I saw regret in her eyes. But then she turned away, her back straight with pride, or maybe anger. I couldn't tell. Outside the courthouse, reporters were waiting. I guess our case had gotten some local attention because the abuse was so unusual. Rachel helped us get past the cameras without talking to anyone. We weren't ready to tell the world our story, not yet. That night, we had a small celebration at Adam's apartment. Nothing fancy, just pizza and ice cream, but it felt like the most meaningful meal of my life. Ruth ate a full slice of pizza without checking the calories or worrying about how she looked. I wore my hair in its natural curls and a tank top that showed my brown skin. They were small victories, but they meant everything. What happens now? Ruth asked as we sat in the living room. Whatever we want, I said. And for the first time in my life, it felt true. The next few months were all about adjusting. The trial was over, but we still had to figure out how to live without fear. Adam's apartment was too small for the three of us, so we started looking for a bigger place. Ruth got a part-time job at an art supply store. It helped her feel more confident. I focused on finishing my last semester at university. We both kept going to therapy. Some days were easier than others. Some were still hard. I still had nightmares about what happened on Thanksgiving. Ruth still struggled with how she saw her body and with eating, but we were getting better little by little. One good thing that surprised us was our growing bond with Aunt Jacqueline. She visited from Brooklyn a few times and even offered to help us with money if we needed it. I should have done more when you were kids, she told us. Let me help now. With her help and the money we had saved, we found a small 3-bedroom apartment near campus. Adam helped us move in, though he kept his own place. You two need your own space, he said. Still, he stayed over so often it felt like he lived with us anyway. About 7 months after the trial, I got a letter from my mom. It had been checked by her prison counselor, who added a note saying they thought it might help her heal to write to us, but that we didn't have to respond. I stared at the envelope for 4 days before finally opening it. Inside was 1 page, written in my mom's neat handwriting. Helen, it began. I'm writing to say I'm sorry. The counselor here is helping me understand that what I did to you and Ruth was wrong. I was raised the same way by my grandmother, but that's no excuse. I hope one day you can forgive me, but I understand if you can't. There was more, but most of it was the same apologies mixed with reasons that felt a little too close to excuses. I showed the letter to Ruth. She read it quietly, then handed it back to me. Do you believe her? She asked. I shrugged. I don't know. Maybe she's starting to understand. Or maybe she's just saying what her counselor wants her to say. Are you going to write back? I thought about it for a long time. Not yet, I said. Maybe someday. But I'm not ready. Ruth nodded. Me neither. We didn't hear anything from our dad. Aunt Jacqueline had visited him and said he was still angry and bitter. He blamed me for turning Ruth against them and breaking up the family. I wasn't surprised, but it still hurt. Life moved forward. I graduated with my degree in psychology. Going through everything we had been through made me want to help others dealing with family trauma. Ruth started taking classes at the local community college. She focused on art therapy. She was still healing, still delicate in some ways, but she was getting stronger every day. Adam and I got more serious. He proposed on my birthday, almost exactly a year after the Thanksgiving incident. Nothing fancy. Just a quiet moment while we were walking through the botanical gardens on campus. I said yes right away. We decided on a long engagement so we could focus on building our careers before getting married. 3 years after the trial, our parents were released on parole. Rachel called to let us know. She reminded us that the restraining order was still in place, and their parole officer knew everything. That night, I had a panic attack. I was scared they might show up at our door, even with the order in place. Adam stayed over and slept on the couch to help us feel safe. But they never came. Aunt Jacqueline told us they had moved to another part of the state. Over the years, my mom sent a few more letters. Each one sounded a little more understanding than the last. I finally wrote back once, a short note saying I was okay, but not ready for more contact. Ruth never replied to any of them. For years after the trial, Adam and I got married in a small ceremony at a local park. Ruth was my maid of honor. She looked healthy and beautiful in a dress that showed off her natural skin tone. Aunt Jacqueline came from Brooklyn and brought a few cousins who had helped with our case. Adam's big, loving family welcomed us with open arms. His mom treated both me and Ruth like we were her own daughters. We didn't invite our parents. I thought about it and even talked it over with my therapist, but I knew I wasn't ready to see them. Maybe one day, but not yet. The wedding was everything I had dreamed of as a child. Not because it was fancy or expensive, but because I was surrounded by people who loved me for who I really was, not how I looked. I wore my natural curls, with small white flowers in my hair. My makeup was simple, letting my real skin shine through. The scars on my face from the burns were still there if you looked closely, but I didn't try to hide them. They were part of my story. Ruth caught the bouquet and blushed when Adam's cousin John asked her to dance right after. They'd been dancing around each other for months, too shy to say anything. It was sweet to see her open up to love. She'd been so focused on healing that she hadn't dated at all since we left our parents' house. As Adam and I danced for the first time as husband and wife, I looked around at the life we had built. It wasn't perfect. We still had hard days. But it was real. It was honest. And it was ours. What are you thinking about? Adam asked when he saw me deep in thought. Just how far we've come, I said. 4 years ago, I was in a hospital with chemical burns. Ruth was starving herself to please our parents. Now look at us. Adam smiled and gently spun me. You're the strongest person I know. You know that. I laughed. I don't feel strong most days. That's what makes you strong, Adam said. You keep going anyway. After the wedding, life settled into a calm and peaceful rhythm. Adam and I bought a small house with a yard where I could garden. I loved digging in the dirt, feeling the sun on my skin, without worrying about getting punished for it. Ruth got her own apartment near the community college, where she had started teaching art classes. She was still in therapy, still working through her struggles with food and body image, but she was doing better than I ever imagined. She was really living. On the 5th anniversary of the Thanksgiving incident, I got another letter from our mom. This one felt different. There were no excuses, no trying to explain or justify the past. Just a simple message. If you are ever willing, I would like to see you and Ruth again. On your terms, in a place where you feel safe. I understand if the answer is no. I showed the letter to Ruth during our weekly sister dinner. She read it carefully, her face hard to read. What do you think? I asked. She sighed. I don't know. Part of me never wants to see them again. But another part wants closure. I get that, I said. Maybe it's time. We talked about it for weeks, with each other and with our therapists. In the end, we decided to meet our mom. Just her, not our dad. We agreed to meet in a public place, with Adam there for support. We picked a quiet coffee shop near our therapist's office, just in case we needed a session afterward. The day of the meeting, I was so nervous I could barely get ready. My hands were shaking so badly that Adam had to drive us. Ruth sat beside me in the car, quiet and pale, but clearly ready. When we arrived, our mom was already there. She was sitting at a corner table, holding a mug of coffee. She looked older. Her hair had gray streaks, and it seemed like she hadn't been dyeing it anymore. When she saw us, she stood up, but didn't move closer, respecting the boundaries we had set in our emails. "Thank you for coming," she said as we sat across from her. Adam sat at the end of the table, quietly watching, there to support us. The conversation started out awkward. Small talk felt strange, like pretending everything was normal. But jumping straight into the deep stuff felt too fast. Eventually, our mom took a deep breath. "I want you both to know I understand now how wrong I was," she said. "The counseling in prison and the therapy after helped me see it. What I did. What your father and I did. There's no excuse." Ruth stared down into her coffee. "Why did you do it?" she asked softly. "Why did you hate how we looked so much?" Our mom's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't hate you," our mom said. "I hated myself. My own grandmother did the same things to me. I thought I was helping you avoid the pain I felt. But instead, I passed it on. We talked for almost 3 hours. It wasn't perfect or magical. There were long silences and moments where it got too emotional to keep going. But it was honest, something our family had never really been before. Before we left, our mom asked if we might be open to meeting again sometime. No pressure," she added quickly. "And I understand if you don't want to include your father. He's still working through things." Ruth and I looked at each other. "Maybe," I said. "We'll think about it." As we walked back to the car, Adam asked how we were feeling. "Weird," Ruth said. "Like, I'm glad we did it, but I also kind of want to go home and cry for hours." "Same," I said. "I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive her, but I do understand her a little better now." A few months later, we met with our mom again, and then again after that. Slowly and carefully, we started building a new kind of relationship. Not the kind of close mother-daughter bond people dream about, but something real, something respectful. She never asked us to see our father, and we never brought it up. Life kept moving forward. Adam and I had our first child, a daughter. We named her Jacqueline after my aunt, the first person in our family who truly believed us. Ruth became the most loving aunt in the world. She spoiled Jacqueline with handmade toys and tiny paintings for her nursery. The first time my mom met Jacqueline was a big moment in our healing. I watched her closely as she held my daughter, waiting to see if she'd show even a trace of the same toxic ideas she once had about appearance. But she just smiled and whispered softly to Jacqueline, "You're perfect just the way you are." "She is," I said as I gently took Jacqueline back. "And she always will be, no matter what she looks like." My mom nodded, hearing what I meant underneath the words. "Yes," she said quietly, "she will be." 8 years after that terrible Thanksgiving, Ruth and John got married on a beach. She wore a sleeveless dress that showed her glowing skin, her natural curls flowing down her back. She looked strong, happy, and full of life. So different from the tired, underweight girl she had once been. During the reception, I found a quiet moment with her away from the music and dancing. "Did you ever think we'd get here?" I asked. I looked around at the life we had built, the family we chose, and asked, "Did you ever think we'd get here?" Ruth smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. "Never. I used to think I'd spend my whole life trying to disappear. But now I'm learning to take up space," she said. "The right kind of space." I hugged her gently, careful not to mess up her wedding hair. "You're doing a pretty good job of it," I said. As we walked back to the party, I saw Adam dancing with our daughter. She was a toddler now, standing on his feet as he moved around the dance floor. My heart felt so full. I thought it might burst. Our journey wasn't over. We still had scars, some you could see and some you couldn't. There were still days when the past crept up on us and made everything feel heavy again. But we had built something powerful. Something our parents never gave us. Unconditional love. Acceptance. The freedom to be exactly who we are.